Thank you for joining us or staying with us at Africa2U.
Kana kamama ojendeje mkunzi ya tata ojendeje karunji kanyamhango nakubone nakutorotora.
Welcome to Africa2U. My name is Vivian Birchall, your host, and today I'm going to be talking about storytelling in Africa. Traditional storytelling is as old as humanity itself. We know the ancestors of all humanity evolved in Africa, so it is safe to say that storytelling also originated in Africa. With time, the art of storytelling developed as humans migrated to different regions of the world. Even today, African narratives are character-building tales with morals told through legends, songs, dances, myths, and riddles. But let me give you a brief historical background to the origin of humanity, the migration patterns, and how storytelling and oral traditions have been sustained. Africa is where all humanity is believed to have originated. Historians have traced the periods in which humans moved from present-day Africa to the Mediterranean, Europe, Asia, America, and finally New Zealand, which is believed to be the last habitable landmass colonized by humankind. Genetic drift and adaptation that has happened in the time since they migrated contributed to the difference in appearances. According to genetic evidence and the most recent fossil discoveries, groups of modern humans first moved across the Sinai Peninsula about 180,000 years ago. Innovative talent carried our species into a very exploitable niche. We were living in the eastern Mediterranean region by 90,000 years ago and reached Asia and Australia by 40,000 years ago, in Europe by 30,000 years ago. During ice ages, sea levels were as much as 425 feet lower than they are today. So, there were land bridges connecting many of today's islands and continents. Humans walked across what is now being the Bering Strait from Russia to Alaska by 15,000 years ago and reached the southern tip of South America by 12,000 years ago. Polynesian voyagers even colonized New Zealand at least 700 years ago. So, anyway, back to storytelling. The Stone Age is believed to have been significant in stimulating development of the modern cognitive abilities. Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania is one of the places where deposits of stone tools were over 1 million years old were found. With the Stone Age came human mastery of fire, and many stories in traditional African societies were told around fireplaces. Traditionally, storytelling has been a way of sustaining heritage and traditions and communicating knowledge. Stories were told around themes of love, conquest, and death, involving discipline, work ethic, leadership, and other morals. The decline of the art of storytelling in Africa was influenced by foreign art forms. This is not to say that those forms are bad, but rather that it has been difficult to balance the traditional art with books, movies, and television, especially when those media are strategically marketed as superior. This identity crisis is evident in many indigenous communities, including those beyond the continent of Africa. Unfortunately, storytelling and folklore has become endangered because its value to the community has been lowered enough to not be preserved in many urban places. It has been replaced by Disney fantasies for both children and adults. parents and communities have lost the skill of telling stories to their children. Anyway, in this episode, I'm going to show you how stories were told to the children. But here, I'm going to share a story that was told by the Baganda people in Uganda. And this is the story that I'm going to tell. It's called Semusajja Agenda. So, once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there was a spring where there lived a songbird that would distract people who went to draw water from the spring. The moment someone would put a water pot on their head to carry it home, the songbird would sing so beautifully, shaking its beads and cowrie shells, and the person who would look back to see it would drop their pot and break it. When the people reported to the king, he laughed out loud and said that any man who drew water from the spring and brought an intact pot of water to him would have his beautiful daughter for a wife. Many men tried, obviously. Who wouldn't want the king's daughter for marriage? But whenever they would put their pot of water on their heads, the bird would break out into its song. Semusajja agenda, kaleba ndabira balyekeyo, kaleba kanyonyi kali ku luzzi, kaleba kambadde ensimbi, kaleba ensimbi n'obutiiti, kaleba kyo kaleba kyukano ndeba, kaleba. So, one day a deformed person called Akakokolo came to visit the king's family and declared his intention to marry the girl. He told them he had heard all about the bird but was determined not to fail like the previous people. The parents and their daughter laughed so hard, but the Kakokolo stood his ground and pleaded to be given a chance. Do you promise to give me the girl if I succeed in bringing back the pot of water? Of course we will keep our part of the bargain, but we know there is no way someone like you can do this. Worthy men have failed. We do not want to waste our time, but for the sake of amusing ourselves, we'll give you a pot. As soon as the Kakokolo got the pot, he set out to the spring. On getting there, he filled the pot hurriedly and put it on his head, and he started moving. No sooner had he started moving than the bird started singing. Semusajja agenda, kaleba ndabira balyekeyo, kaleba kanyonyi kali ku luzzi, kaleba kambadde ensimbi, kaleba ensimbi n'obutiiti, kaleba kyo kaleba kyukano ndeba, kaleba. The Kakokolo did not turn to look at the bird. This man is trying to resist me, thought the bird. Let me put in more effort. The bird sang louder, but the Kakokolo did not stop or turn to look at it. The bird started dancing and doing tricks while singing, but the Kakokolo did not turn to look at it. It flew over him, but to no avail. The king and his wife and daughter were still laughing when suddenly saw from a distance the Kakokolo walking toward them with the pot on his head. Their laughter froze on their faces. They noticed the bird was still flying behind the Kakokolo, trying to distract him. He finally got to the family, gently lowered the pot of water to the ground, and asked the girl's hand in marriage. As promised, the girl and the parents cried and cried, but a promise is a promise. So they had no choice but to give the girl to the Kakokolo to be his wife. The moral of this story was to caution against the arrogance of despising and underrating people who look different in appearance, and to emphasize the importance of not judging a book by its cover. Children are also reminded that following a task to the end without letting themselves be distracted pays off. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Africa2U. See you next time. Children, are you ready for a story?
Yes.
Okay, listen very carefully. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there was a spring where lived a songbird that would distract people who went to draw water from the spring. The moment someone would put water in a pot and carry it on their head to take it home, the bird would sing so beautifully, shaking its beads and coral shells. And the person who would look back to see it would drop their pot and break it. When the people reported to the king, he laughed, ha 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 ha. He laughed out loud and said that any man who drew water from that spring and brought an intact pot of water to him would have his beautiful daughter for a wife. Many men tried, but whenever they would put the pot of water on their head, the bird would sing and the people would turn back. The bird would just break out in a song and they would turn back to look at the bird and the pot would break. And this is the bird they would sing. Semsaja genda,
Kaleba.
kanyonyi kali kulusi,
Kaleba.
kambadde nsimbi,
Kaleba.
simbi n'obutiiti,
Kaleba.
chochi,
Kaleba.
kyuka nondeeba,
Kaleba.
chochi,
Kaleba.
kyuka nondeeba.
Kaleba.
So, one day, a deformed man, a deformed person called Akakokolo came to visit the king's family and declared his intention to marry the girl. He told them he had heard all about the bird but was determined not to fail like the previous people. The parents and their daughters laughed so hard, ha ha ha, but the Kakokolo was so determined and stood his ground and pleaded to be given a chance. So, do you promise to give me the girl if I succeed to bring back the pot of water? Asked the Kakokolo. Of course we'll keep our promise, our part of the bargain, but we know there is no way someone like you can do this. Worthy men have failed. We do not want to waste our time, but for the sake of amusing ourselves, we'll give you the pot. As soon as the Kakokolo got the pot, he ran to the spring, and on getting there, he filled the pot hurriedly and put it on his head. No sooner had he started moving than the bird started singing. Semsacha genda,
Kaleba.
dabira balyekeyo,
Kaleba.
akanyonyi kali kulusi,
Kaleba.
kambadde nsimbi,
Kaleba.
simbi n'obutiiti,
Kaleba.
chochi,
Kaleba.
kyuka nondeeba,
Kaleba.
chochi,
Kaleba.
kyuka nondeeba.
Kaleba.
The Kakokolo did not turn to look at the bird. This man is trying to resist me, thought the bird. Let me put in more effort. The bird sang louder and louder, but the Kakokolo did not stop or turn to look at it. The bird started dancing and doing tricks while singing. But the Kakokolo did not turn to look at it. It flew over him, but to no avail. The king and his wife and daughter were still laughing when suddenly they saw in a distance the Kakokolo walking toward them with the pot on his head. Their laughter froze on their faces, and they noticed the bird was still flying behind the Kakokolo, trying to distract him. He finally got to the family, gently lowered the pot of water to the ground, and asked for the girl's hand in marriage as promised. The girl and her parents cried and cried, but a promise is a promise. So they had no choice but to give the girl to the Kakokolo to be his wife. The moral of this story was to caution against arrogance. Of course, the moral of the story was to teach against the arrogance of despising and underrating people who may look different in appearance, and to emphasize the importance of not judging a book by its cover. Children are also reminded that following a task to the end without letting themselves be distracted pays off. So, girls, did you enjoy the story?
Yeah.
Thank you for being here for this story, and hope you'll join me next time for another children's story. Say bye-bye to the people watching you. Thank you. And I hope you keep watching Africa2U. We'll be back with more stories from Africa.
Say bye, girls.
See you next time.
I'm gonna say bye, girls.
I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Africa2U. For more on Africa, please visit our website at www.africa2u.org, or visit our YouTube channel, the ActonTV YouTube channel. And you can also email me at africa2u.vivian@gmail.com. I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you have had a great time. Till next time.
Era n'empisa ezeetaagisa mu bantu abakulu babe n'eggonjebwa, babe n'okutegeera n'amagezi ago bwe twabangako ng'omwana bw'agenda awali omuntu agenda yeewombeese, abeera awo ng'amutwala ng'ekikulu, olugero olwo ne lumutwala era bw'aba akuzeemu naye n'alumanya n'alagirira abaana be okumanya ekyetaagisa nti omuntu omukulu bw'akula aba atya era ayisibwa atya. Omwana oyo n'akiyiga n'amanya ensonga eyo omuntu omukulu gy'ateekwa okubeera, kubanga abaana bwe tutaabayitirizanga ngero ezo omwana ng'akula alalamadde talina kyategeera. Naye bwe wamugambanga ekintu nga kimukugira, totambulatambula nnyo, ojja kusangayo ekisolo ekinaakulya nga toyagala atambule n'omukanga. N'omugamba bw'onoogenda wali ojja kusisinkanawo ekintu kijja kukugoba. Omwana oyo yakulanga amanyi nti bwe ndaga wano nja kusangawo ekintu gundi nga talagaawo, ng'atya ng'agamba ne munne.
And what we are going to see is the Imbalu. Imbalu dance is the one that now we are going to see when they are now changing a boy into a man. It is a circumcision dance. I wish you a good viewing. Oh, umwana we bamasaba, ngosi lwe bajaso, salo teka wamanya, ayakuteka mamayo, umwana we bamasaba, ngosi lwe bamasaba, sale kujaka mama. Yes,